You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome, fellow patriots. Get ready for an hour of unabashedly pro-American, pro-conservative, and pro-biblical principles. This is the Blake Johnson Program.
Welcome everyone to the broadcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hope you've enjoyed your week. Hope you've had a safe and pleasant weekend. And I hope that if any of you out there listening are from the South Carolina, North Carolina region, around that area of the country, that you and your family and friends are safe from the hurricane that has gone through there over the weekend. Very, very sad situation happening over in the Carolinas and elsewhere. Just some updates for you in regards to that situation. Obviously, this is an ongoing situation in terms of how many people have unfortunately died through this. The amount of homes that were lost and families that will have to relocate or start elsewhere. It's very much a situation that you can't jump to too many conclusions on yet, because we don't know all the facts on how many people have perished. But it is certainly a very horrific situation. I can say, at least for right now, at least 6 people have been confirmed dead from the storm-related incidents. It's knocked out power to nearly 1 million homes and businesses. About 904 flights were canceled within, into, or out of the U.S. on Friday. 818 flights were canceled on Saturday, and 450 on Sunday, according to FlightAware. One town in particular received more than 30 inches of rain, with forecasters warning that rains totaling up to 3.5 feet could trigger epic flooding through early of this week. And it's a horrible situation. You have colleges giving free football tickets to evacuees to try to help them out there, to watch the University of Florida's football team play Colorado State. So that's, I guess, a good thing. Okay, thank you. But they did that. Again, I'm trying to be as accurate as I can possibly be here. But originally, when this storm was going through, when this hurricane was going through, it looked to be headed towards, away from the Carolinas, but then it started to go in a different direction and started to head towards the Carolinas and the southeast portion of the country. Well, then it went from like a Category 4 to a Category 1, but then meteorologists and other experts out there were saying that no, actually it's more dangerous than you think it is, etc., etc., etc. So, there's a lot of conflicting reports that tend to happen in these kinds of events because weather is unpredictable. I mean, yes, you have forecasts, you have radar, you have all these things, but Mother Nature is going to do whatever it wants to do, and sometimes it will just change its mind all of a sudden. So, basically, these are best guesses as to what's going to happen. Suffice to say that they are right to say that you should evacuate the area. Now, as of right now, it's probably too late to do that if you haven't already, because the storm's already hit. But hopefully, people will be able to get back on their feet within the next few weeks to months. I don't know how long this is going to last. I mean, there's lots of flooding and damages and things of that nature going on in those regions. So definitely want to keep our thoughts and prayers with those people. I will say, this is something that I have had a really hard time understanding, and I'll just be completely honest with you. I have never understood why families stay behind in a storm of those proportions. I understand some of the reasons, I should say. I just don't understand why those reasons alone are what trump staying and risking your life when a hurricane is coming. I understand some people want to stay because they want to get video of the weather. They want to try to help out. So I don't help out in some way, I guess. But how are you helping anyone when you're staying behind? The hurricane comes in and your whole home is flooded and you're stranded and you're waiting for the government to come in and help you. That's costing, quite frankly, the American taxpayer an unnecessary amount of money. Now, I don't want to come off as callous. How could you focus on money in a time like this? Well, that does unfortunately become an inevitable part of these situations. So, if you're staying behind, if you stayed behind because there was just no way for you to leave, that's one thing. But if you have the ability to evacuate, if you have a place to go, there are shelters all over the country, I'm sure, especially in these kinds of situations that are more than prepared to take your family in, if need be. Why would you risk that not go and just stay behind? To me, and I've heard this suggestion brought up before, and I tend to agree with it. If you decide to stay behind, you should be fined for that. Because you're already costing the government money and resources and time to get to you. And by the way, they can't get to you right away anyway, because they're waiting for the storm to pass and they're waiting before it's safe so they don't risk the lives of the people who are doing the rescuing. So there is that. But it is, like I said, it's also costing other people money as well. Maybe you give to charity, maybe you are involved in donating to organizations that help in situations like this. That's all well and good. But for me, the way I look at it is, if you're going to donate to that, you would expect that people wouldn't abuse that system, whether directly or indirectly, whether intentional or unintentional. So, to me, I obviously feel bad for those families who are affected, for those families who've lost loved ones in this. I'm not trying to say that, you deserve to die or anything like that. I'm just saying, to me, it's pretty foolish to stay behind if you can leave. I understand there are looters out there. There are cases of people who steal and rob, especially, because the families are leaving. So when they leave the home, they will go in and take what they've left behind. I understand why that would be a cause for concern. But at the end of the day, your safety is more important than your possessions. It really is. So, again, praying for the victims, praying for the families. I really hope that people come out of this safer than originally was projected. So we will keep on that. We will look at that and keep you updated on what's going on. Hopefully, next broadcast we'll have better, more encouraging information on what's going on in the Carolinas and beyond. Okay. I want to move on to this situation regarding Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court Justice nominee to the U.S. Supreme Court. He is about to face his confirmation vote and very likely is going to be confirmed to the United States Supreme Court to replace former Justice Anthony Kennedy. Well, just a few days ago, there has been an allegation that's been brought up by none other than the ever so heroic Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein is a hard left radical And I know that's kind of redundant, but that's who she is. She's from California, so that should tell you all you need to know. Well, the left has been pulling out all the different things that they can think of to try to stop Brett Kavanaugh from being confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court. You may have seen or heard video of people like Linda Sarsour, a radical Islamist Jew hater, who was making a ruckus inside the confirmation room. There have been other protests and things that have been going on. There have been some nasty, awful, vile things that have been spread on social media, and it goes on and on and on. Well, the latest is, I think, the most egregious, ridiculous allegation that has come out, primarily because it has no basis in fact. It is not a credible accusation whatsoever. Dianne Feinstein unveils this accusation from someone who came to her, a anonymous woman who came to her, saying that Brett Kavanaugh, back when he was in high school or in college, basically forced himself on her. It reportedly happened in the early 1980s, according to a report by The New Yorker. It was originally delivered to Representative Anna Eshoo from California, and then to Senator Dianne Feinstein in July. Back in July. So keep that in mind. A few months ago. Shortly after President Trump chose Kavanaugh as his nominee. Feinstein reportedly turned the letter over to the Federal Bureau of Investigations, but neither Eshoo nor Feinstein took any action concerning the letter nor revealed its contents until this week. An FBI spokesperson issued a statement Thursday in response to the news. Quote, upon receipt of the information on the night of September 12th, we included it as part of Judge Kavanaugh's background file as per the standard process. On Friday, Feinstein, who is ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, issued her own statement on the letter, explaining that the woman was adamant in remaining anonymous. Quote, that individual strongly requested confidentiality, declined to come forward or press the matter further, and I have honored that decision. Kavanaugh, in response to this, said on Friday that, quote, I categorically and unequivocally deny this allegation. I did not do this back in high school or at any time, end quote. Oh boy. And a statement. White House spokesperson Kerry Kupek said, quote, throughout his confirmation process, Judge Kavanaugh has had 65 meetings with senators, including with Senator Feinstein, gone through all these different deals, so he's talked to all these different people, gone through all these different testimonies, over 2,000 questions, and none of this has ever come up before. Now, this I thought was pretty interesting as well. This from Fox News. I guess there's 65 women who have come out saying that 65 women who've known Brett Kavanaugh for years, defending him, saying these allegations are false. They claim to have known Kavanaugh for more than 35 years, and they penned a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee to vouch for his character, and it says, quote, we are women who have known Kavanaugh for more than 35 years and knew him while he attended high school between 79 and 83. For the entire time we have known Brett Kavanaugh, he has behaved honorably and treated women with respect. We strongly believe it is important to convey this information to the committee at this time. Many of us have remained close friends with him and his family over the years. Throughout more than 35 years we've known him, Brett has stood out for his friendship, character, and integrity. In particular, he has always treated women with decency and respect. That was true when he was in high school, and it's remained true to this day. So they're vouching for him, and that's what we know so far. And this, to me, is pretty outrageous. Because first of all, you have an anonymous woman whose name we don't know of, giving an anonymous report of a time that we don't know. We don't know exactly when this happened, where it happened, under what circumstances this happened, who all was there. We know nothing except this happened around this time. That's all we know. We have no idea who made the report. But also, this thing has been going on. This was delivered in July. Feinstein has had this for the past 2.5 months, 2 to 3 months. And we're just now knowing about this because, as far as I know, these confirmation hearings didn't just start. They've been going on for the past couple of weeks, and no mention of this at all. And as far as I know, the FBI has not really seen this as a serious investigation to look into, because it's anonymous. And to me, this is a really big deal, because you have a guy who is, being questioned. He's probably going to be the next U.S. Supreme Court Justice, and his character is under threat by someone we don't even know. And you have some random person that we don't know of making this testimony. So who are we to believe? Are we to believe the people of the New Yorker? Are we to believe Dianne Feinstein? Are we to believe some woman that we don't know, just based on an accusation? What happened to innocent until proven guilty? Or are we now just going to try this in the court of public opinion? Well, that's what they're trying to do. Now, why this information was released now is pretty apparent. It's because he's just about to be confirmed. They want to get this information, but not release it too soon, because then people will forget about it. They want to release it right before the vote happens. That way it's fresh in everyone's mind, and that way the left can then take down Kavanaugh. But they also want to grandstand. The left, and members of the Democratic Party, also want to put on a show. They want to put on a show for their base and say that we stood against Kavanaugh. Even if the allegations have no merit whatsoever, they want to stand up and say, we oppose this guy. Which I find it really odd that they are so against Kavanaugh, because he's not some hardcore right-winger. He's not. I mean, he has said in past rulings and past statements as a judge that he would have upheld Obamacare for different reasons than it was already upheld, because of, the whole, whether it's a tax or a fine situation. He would have upheld it for different reasons. He's also not very good, as I've discussed before, when it comes to privacy, when it comes to abortion, and here's the thing. Abortion is something that we don't have any record on when it comes to Kavanaugh, because he's been very silent on this. And to me, that's not a good thing, because abortion is one of the most critical issues, especially as a Supreme Court justice, that people are going to ask about. And there is one, I believe I wrote about this in my column up at doaeshow.com, Defenders of American Exceptionalism, in which I share that he believed that, I can't remember the exact case, but it was an illegal alien who was trying to get an abortion, and he believed that she should have the ability to do that. But other than that, we have no idea how he would vote on Roe v. Wade. Now, he has said recently in the confirmation hearings that he believes that Roe v. Wade is precedent. It's settled precedent. And he believes, essentially, that there's really no more discussion to be had about it. Now, maybe you've interpreted it differently, but from what I've seen, that's the situation. So, he's not some Antonin Scalia, Clarence Thomas figure. At worst, he is another rhino who's probably gonna lurched some to the left of what we would want. At best, he's probably another Anthony Kennedy, which is not good. I didn't like Anthony Kennedy either. But it doesn't matter. From the left, anyone, especially a white guy who is appointed by the president, nominated by the president, I should say, by Donald Trump, is someone that they have to oppose, especially if their base is making a big deal about it, because they have to keep their seats, and that's what it's really all about. They have to keep their seats, especially the older, more established Democrats who've had power for a long time. They don't want to appear out of touch with their hardcore socialist, increasingly socialist base. They have no principle. They have no merit. They have no real moral compass outside of what's politically expedient for them. That is what this is about. It's because they have to preserve their own power. And to me, I also find it insanely hypocritical that some on the right, the same people on the right, who were so willing to throw Roy Moore under the bus, are now just coming out in the thousands, it seems, to defend Brett Kavanaugh. Now, I understand there are some different aspects to this. There are some, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's pretty similar. Some of the accusations made against former Senate candidate Roy Moore of Alabama were very sketchy at best. Some were flat out false and admitted to be false. But many on the right, at least I shouldn't say people like you, but the intellectuals on the right, the David Frenches, the Jonah Goldbergs of the right, the intellectual elite, those who simply know more about conservative values than you do, were very quick to throw him under the bus. But now, all of a sudden, they are out there in full force defending Kavanaugh. Because he's one of them. He's one of them. He's not someone that fully stands for conservative values. Now, I've said this before as well. When it comes to a Supreme Court justice, I'm not looking for ideology. I'm looking for principle. And that is what conservatism used to be about. It didn't used to be about, just trying to piss off the left. It didn't used to be about, just voting Republican. It used to be about conserving the Constitution. But now it seems like we're more about personalities than principles. So, unfortunately, that's what this has turned into. But I'm looking for a constitutionalist, and if Kavanaugh turns out to be a great justice, I will praise him. I will praise what he has done. But we'll see. So, there's a lot going on here. We won't know exactly how it's all going to pan out, but very good chance Kavanaugh is going to make it through as a Supreme Court justice. So, we will see how the left handles that. It's probably not going to be pretty. And I tell you, you think you've seen worse, you think you've seen it real bad here, wait until the other Supreme Court justice retires or passes away, like a Ginsburg or a Breyer or someone like that. Wait until that happens, and then you will have a real fight, because then it truly, truly is a challenge to see if the Supreme Court will tilt to the conservative side or the progressive activist side. And that is going to be a fight that we have got to be engaged in, and engaged in on principle, not personality. We'll be right back. the Clintons are back in the news once again. Have you missed them as much as I have missed them? Oh, I'm sure it's not even a close contest at all. Of course you have. Of course. We are always waiting on bated breath to figure out what a Clinton has to say about anything, but specifically moral issues. So, Chelsea Clinton decided to go on a Sirius XM talk show and discuss her feelings about abortion. Now, before I play this clip, let me just throw this out there in case you are driving. I don't know how you're listening to this podcast. If you're driving, if you are just sitting at home listening to this on your laptop or your smartphone and you're drinking a cup of coffee or whatever you're doing. If you're holding anything expensive, or if you value your clothing, or if you decide that you don't really feel like getting in a wreck today, I would advise you to be prepared for this clip because it's going to make your head explode. Here's Chelsea Clinton talking about abortion.
When I think about all of the statistics that are painful of what women are confronting, Zerlina, today in our country, and what even more women confronted pre-Roe, and how many women died, and how many more women were maimed because of unsafe abortion practices. We just can't go back to that. Like, that's unconscionable to me. And also, and I'm sure that this will unleash another wave of hate in my direction, but as a deeply religious person, it's also unchristian.
Unchristian. Okay. There are so many levels of stupidity here. So many. So many. Let's start with the easiest one. Chelsea, for you to be playing the religious moral card, let me tell you what exactly is unchristian and appalling and sickening. Is for a former president of the United States to sexually harass and possibly even rape multiple women in his administration and beyond. What's also immoral is for your mother, then First Lady of the United States, to help cover that up and shut the women up. That is deeply immoral and unchristian. Also, you want to talk about being a deeply religious person? Have you read any portion of the Bible, or you just pick and choose which sections that you want to believe in? Did you, for instance, read Psalm 139 verses 13 through 18? Well, in case you haven't, let me read it to you. It says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I am awake, I am still with you." What part of that screams to you, abortion is okay? What part of that says to you that clump of cells inside of you is anything other than a living human being who was formed and knit together inside of the mother's womb by the creator of the entire freaking universe himself, God Almighty? If you honestly are there to tell me that you as a Christian do not believe that that is a human life, and a woman's personal choice to snuff out that life is more important than what God has already ordained to be holy and true, then you are not a Christian. Plain and simple, you're not. You and the left love to talk about how we have to be there for those who are hungry. We have to be there for those who are being oppressed. And of course, we agree. After all, as a Christian, you probably believe in Matthew 25, verses 40 and 45, in which the king will reply, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Especially the part when it says, for I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me. You would, of course, believe that that is wrong, to neglect people like that. Yet, out of the same breath, you as a religious person, as a Christian, also think that that clump of cells, which isn't just based on the Bible to be a human life, but is based on modern day science to be a human life, and will in fact grow up to be a fully formed human, you think that life doesn't really have a choice, doesn't get a say, doesn't matter? How hypocritical do you have to be? One of my biggest pet peeves is when someone claims to be a Christian and yet they fight for things like that are truly evil and satanic. It's satanic to believe in abortion. It's satanic to believe that abortion is moral and righteous and true and holy. That is evil. Period. End of sentence. Done. That's it. Just more insanity. It really is. And the sad truth of the matter is, she is merely one of a growing and growing number of people in my generation and the next generation that thinks this is okay.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
So John Thinhead Kerry, former Secretary of State under Barack Obama, is getting some flack for his recent meetings with Iranian government officials, particularly getting some flack from Mike Pompeo, the current Secretary of State. Kerry met with some Iranian government leaders recently discussing topics such as the Iranian nuclear deal. He says that he's done nothing wrong, that this is not unprecedented, but the Trump administration is saying otherwise. Kerry is saying that one of the things they discussed was, quote, try to elicit from him what Iran might be willing to do in order to change the dynamic in the Middle East for the better. In an interview with Fox News, Kerry implied that he has encouraged the Iranian government to wait out Trump until there is a Democrat president yet again. He says, I think everybody in the world is just waiting for President Trump to leave. Those comments in particular appeared to gall Trump, who tweeted out on Thursday, quote, John Kerry had illegal meetings with the very hostile Iranian regime, which can only serve to undercut our great work to the detriment of the American people. He told them to wait out the Trump administration. Was he registered under the Foreign Agents Registration Act? Bad. So yeah, he didn't like that so much. Now, Pompeo declined on Friday to say if the Kerry-Zarif meetings are illegal. Legal experts are casting a lot of doubt on whether or not they can even charge Kerry with libel, though they note that it could depend on the specifics of the meetings. So, Kerry's not going to be held for anything. He really isn't. And he knows that, which is why he did it. He knows that he's going to get away with it. And this was a clear effort by Kerry to undermine the Trump administration. Yes, he's claiming that he's just trying to make sure the Iranians aren't going to do anything crazy. And that may be partially true. But he definitely wants to make it seem like, look, let's just not listen to Trump. Let's just wait him out. Then we'll get a Democrat president. And then we'll be back at the table once again. To me, this is pretty disgusting for Kerry to do this, because it's not surprising, for one thing, because Kerry, one of his signature accomplishments, if you could call it an accomplishment, during the Obama administration was to help craft the Iran nuclear deal. Now, this deal, as you know, is a bit of a sham because, it's said on the surface, it says, we want to make sure that Iran doesn't get nuclear weapons. Well, in order to do that, we are going to give them economic relief. So we did. We gave them billions of dollars in relief money, but they are still, and they have been, sponsoring terrorism. They're the leading state sponsor of terrorism around the world, but particularly in the Middle East. They are constantly calling for the death of America and Israel, and it's been shown that they have still found ways to go around not being able to produce nuclear weapons, and instead actually producing nuclear weapons, or being on the path to that. So this idea that all of a sudden the Iranian regime has access to nuclear weapons because Trump pulled out of the deal is just farce. It's a farce. I remember this when the day after it was announced that we were pulling out, it was discovered all of a sudden that there is a facility in Iran that seems to be close to developing a nuclear weapon. Huh. Unless they build extremely fast, I think they've been at that for a while. So, this is disturbing, and it's disturbing to see, since the beginning, right? Forget what you think about the current president. It's disturbing to see from the beginning administration officials in the Obama administration trying to thwart what this current president has been doing. And anything as simple as the Democrats not wanting to confirm Trump's appointments to replace the Obama officials. To me, that was disgusting. Just let the new government come in and let it be a full, peaceful transition of power. Instead, what the Democrats want to do is they want to hold on to power as much as they possibly can. And you're seeing that yet again. Of course, Kerry's going to pull out all the excuses because he knows he's going to get away with it. He knows he's going to. But if you just look underneath the surface of this, it's very sleazy. It's pretty low. But it's not surprising coming from someone like Thinhead John Kerry, which is what I always used to call him when I was little, when he ran against George Bush. Okay, so this story I thought was quite odd. There is a professor at the College of Southern Nevada by the name of Mark Bird, 69 years old. He shot himself in the arm in the university bathroom to protest Donald Trump. But now he's saying that he actually did it because he wants to ban AR-15s, among other issues. So here's what happened. Like I said, he's a 69-year-old professor at the College of Southern Nevada. He shot himself in the arm on the second day of classes at the college. After he was discovered bleeding outside of the bathroom campus, police said that Bird fired the self-inflicted shot to his arm in protest of Trump and his administration's policies. He also taped a $100 bill to the bathroom's mirror for the janitor to apparently compensate for the bloody mess he made inside the facility. The president of the school's faculty union issued a statement condemning the way the university handled the incident. Quote, "They never really told the students much about it except that it was resolved on the actual day of the shooting. When you don't give the full details, then rumors go crazy. It's unfortunate because it made the students and faculty very afraid and allowed rumors to if I can say that word, proliferate," end quote. And that's from Robert Manis. And he told that to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Police charged Bird with discharging a gun within a prohibited structure, carrying a concealed weapon without a permit, and possessing a dangerous weapon on school property. Bird was sent to the Clark County Detention Center on a $50,000 bond, and has also been banned from returning to the campus, so that's good. Now, since then, Bird has recently issued an apology in letters obtained by Blue Lives Matter. And this is what the letter says. Now, this is just crazy. It says, and this is from Bird, once again, "I sincerely apologize for my behavior today. I was motivated by multiple reasons. A major reason is derivative of the following October 20th, 2017 CBS News story. The Earth had roughly 100 million malnutrition and pollution deaths in the past decade, and the Earth is on a course for at least another 100 million such deaths in the next decade. 100 million deaths are more than all the military and civilian deaths of World War II. A less significant motivation relates to the October 1st, 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting from the Mandalay Hotel that killed 58 people. Since this incident, there has been no national legislation banning bump stocks, banning civilian ownership of AR-15 type assault weapons, and the passage of universal background checks legislation. Apparently, it is about as easy to buy an AR-15 as a two-shot Derringer. I have sent a longer essay on my motivations to Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson and others." According to the outlet, police discovered a .22 Derringer two-shot pistol at the scene. This is so stupid. It really is. So this guy is a clear left-wing nut job who he shot himself in the arm to protest Trump, to protest climate change, to protest gun control. And he's saying that we need to ban the AR-15 type assault weapon, even though the AR-15 is basically a modern sporting rifle. That's the sporting rifle of choice. It's not a military style assault weapon. And I hate it when people use the term assault weapon. It's a made up term. An assault weapon could be defined as anything you use to attack another human being. But that doesn't make the weapon in and of itself a living human being. The weapon is not assaulting someone. You are. So that's pretty stupid. But this guy, I mean, it does say that he has been banned from returning to the campus, so that's a good thing. But can we just... This is the obvious irony here. A guy is protesting gun control, but he uses a gun to do it. So, what exactly are you doing? I believe we shouldn't have access to guns. Yet I'm going to use one to shoot myself to send terror and panic throughout the school because I want to protest a political figure. Yeah, you need some help. Some real help. Like mental stability help, if you're actually going to do that. But this is the attitude of the left. In many ways. Not necessarily to the extent of that they're going to do what this guy did, but this is the ends justify the means with these people. They believe that as long as you get guns banned, then that's what matters. And look, you're going to hear from the left, oh, this isn't about banning guns. This isn't about, getting rid of the Second Amendment. Even though their policies say otherwise, even though their rhetoric says otherwise, even though the actual statements that they've made, many of them have made, including former Supreme Court justices, saying that they want to get rid of the Second Amendment. Yeah, I think there's a reason to be concerned about that. So, yeah, that's just crazy. Just crazy. Alright, we'll take a break and come back in just a minute on the Blake Johnson program to close out the show. Stay tuned. So Twitter is in the news yet again, and it's no surprise as to what it is about. Jack Dorsey has been making the rounds, talking about social media platforms and trying to make the case that his is not inherently biased. But that seems to fly in the face of what he also admitted in an interview last month, saying out loud what everyone already knew, that Twitter, like most tech companies in the Silicon Valley, has a lot more left-leaning employees than right-leaners. Twitter is so liberal, in fact, that conservative employees of Twitter don't feel safe to express their opinions within the company, Dorsey told NYU journalism professor Jay Rosen in a new interview published on Recode Media. He says, quote, "We have a lot of conservative-leaning folks in the company as well, and to be honest, they don't feel safe to express their opinions at the company. They do feel silenced by just the general swirl of what they perceive to be the broader percentage of leanings within the company, and I don't think that's fair or right." Dorsey also explained why he brought up Twitter's left-leaning employee bias to begin with. He says, quote, "I think it's more and more important to at least clarify what our own bias leans towards and just express it. I'd rather know what someone biases to rather than try to interpret through their actions," end quote. Now, this kind of talk is going to add more and more fuel to the fire of the idea that Twitter, like other social media platforms, are censoring conservative voices. Just this past week, Breitbart published a video of an internal all-hands meeting at Google shortly after the 2016 election, in which the company executives consoled employees who were upset that Trump won the presidency. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is even considering a formal investigation to determine whether or not tech giants are indeed suppressing conservative viewpoints. Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook have largely tried to avoid any issues of political bias by relying heavily on software algorithms. This is according to Recode.net. By relying heavily on software algorithms to determine which content is shown to which users. Software algorithms are written by humans, though, which means that they have likely biases as well. Gee, you think? Now, Dorsey, again, the CEO of Twitter, has been making the rounds on trying to talk to different conservative voices. One of them he talked to was Sean Hannity. He said on his radio show that he's trying to build trust among conservatives who have long chastised the company. He said, quote, to Rosen, "We should make sure that everyone feels safe to express themselves within the company, no matter where they come from and what their background is." Now, this, I liked what this piece said at the start. If you look at it on Recode.net, it basically tries to cover for Dorsey, stick up for Dorsey, saying that he's consistently denied, bias against conservatives. And it's also tried to frame it as, the right people on the right are just, they keep bringing this up and they're afraid of this idea, yada, yada, yada. But then later on, he even admits that, there's a fear among conservative employees of which there are a few, that they shouldn't really discuss what their political viewpoints are. Well, have you ever stopped to wonder why that is? I mean, he's not really said why that is. He said the general swirl that there's a predominance of left-wing viewpoints, so therefore they don't feel comfortable doing that. Well, look, there are places that you can work where you're a conservative and you're surrounded by liberals, but you feel like it's okay to discuss your viewpoints, depending on how liberal you are. If you're a leftist, that's darn near impossible. But I don't know that it's necessarily just because they're liberals. It's because there's this feeling of suppression of conservative voices. I mean, look, we talked on the show, what was it, a week or two ago, about how Alex Jones was pulled from Twitter. Now, Alex Jones is not a conservative. Many people who, I'm sure there are people who work for him, for InfoWars are, but he's not. But, Dorsey comes out like a month ago and says, we're not going to censor Alex Jones, we're not going to pull him from our platform, and then a couple of weeks later they do just that. And we still don't really know what exactly happened to warrant that, to merit that. Now look, Twitter, obviously, private company, they can do what they want, but I don't like that. I don't like the idea that, conservatives are afraid to really be conservatives for fear of being shut down. You've seen this happen with Steven Crowder, guy who does a show for CRTV. He's a well-known... He's the guy who does the Change My Mind sessions where he'll just, sit a table out somewhere on the sidewalk and he'll say something conservative like, for example, I believe that abortion is murder, change my mind, and then he'll sit down and talk to whoever wants to sit down and try to change his mind. He's very famous for that. But he has talked about how his brand, Louder with Crowder, has, their platform that was on YouTube and Facebook, how their traffic has really gone down recently, especially, but it's gone down for a while because of their conservative content. And, well, at least that's what it appears to be. There are other questions, I'm sure, they haven't really resolved the issue, but we've seen this happen with multiple people, and you don't hear any of this happen on the left. I have yet to hear someone on the left say that their content has been censored by Facebook or Twitter or YouTube because of their liberal beliefs. You just don't hear that. But you do hear that from the right constantly. So this idea that conservatives who work for you at your company are afraid to talk about their beliefs, that's not good. That's really not good at all. But again, I just want to make very clear, private company, do what you want, but this does not bode well for the case for liberty. This does not bode well for people on either side to really champion the idea of freedom of thought and freedom of speech in the moral sense. It just doesn't. And we shouldn't be cheering what Twitter is doing, even if they take down people that we don't like for things that really aren't that. I mean, if it violates company policy, that's one thing. But if it's very vague, I mean, that's not good either. But what do I know? I'm just some schmuck on the internet. But that's going to do it for this edition of the Blake Johnson program. We'll see you back here on Monday. I'm hoping to have a major announcement for you in relation to the future of my radio show. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, but it's going to be fun. I'm very excited to tell you about this. So stay tuned for that. You do not want to miss it. In the meantime, have a great week and a great weekend. God bless.